The two best words in all of sports are upon us once again. We have ourselves a Game 7 between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. In the game last night where OKC, they had a chance to put things away and win the series in 6, Denver went out and they forced themselves a Game 7. In a battle that was held going into the second round as one between the two best stars in the league, the two leading MVP candidates in Jokic and Shai. This one had a lot of hype behind it, and it has absolutely lived up to that so far. This past game, Nikola Jokic went off and Jamal Murray went off, as well as Christian Braun and Julian Strawther, who really helped put this team over the edge. Strawther with 15, Christian Braun with 23. Especially in a series where Michael Porter Jr. has been playing with one arm, basically. Their contributions were necessary to make it go this far, and they were huge this past Game 6. Going into Game 7 here, the Denver Nuggets, they have a lot of experience under the Nikola Jokic era of playing in Game 7s. This is the third time in the Jokic era that the Nuggets have played in back-to-back Game 7s in the first two rounds. So the first round they had a series go to 7, second round they had the same exact thing happen. This is the third time that has occurred for the Nuggets. It first happened in 2019, where they would beat the Spurs in 7, but then go down to the Portland Trailblazers in the conference semifinals. It happened again the following year in the 2019-20 season. They would win the first round in 7 against Utah, and then lose in 7 to the Clippers the following round. And last year, it wasn't back-to-back, but they did have another Game 7 as just an individual series in the semifinals against Minnesota in the conference semifinals. Then we get to this season, and of course, they just had a 7-game series against the Clippers, and now they're going into one against OKC. And what does this mean? Why does it matter? That's because this team is very, very far away from shying away from the spotlight. They are ready for any moment. Because it's one thing for the bright lights of the playoffs to turn on. That in itself is a major, major adjustment in atmosphere. Whether it is the competitive drive of the players or the fans trying to will their team on, just going from the regular season to the postseason is a major, major adjustment. But then you get to Game 7, and that's even bigger. Because going to the playoffs, there is a little bit of a margin for error. Compare it to something like the NFL, where it's a one and done. But in the NBA postseason, you can lose a game and still go on to win that series. Heck, you can still go on to win in 5 and not have much trouble with it. But you get to Game 7, and there's no margin for error. And so, when that's the case, the lights are shining to an even greater extent. But Denver, they have very much been here before, and so they're ready for the challenge of Game 7. Notably also for the Nuggets, Game 7 will take place on Sunday, May 18th, and what this means is that the Nuggets will have 2 nights of rest going into this game, and this will be the first time that has happened in over 2 weeks. The endurance of Denver has been tested to this point, and now they finally get a chance to have just a little bit more rest. And so, with that, they're going to be going into Game 7 just a little bit more energized and ready for the moment. However, Oklahoma City, they are not going down without a fight either. They are 6-0 in Game 7s at home against the Western Conference. When you have a Game 7 on their home court, that is an entirely different atmosphere. Oklahoma City, they are known as Loud City, and that is for a reason. There is a distinct passion from the Thunder fans, and that really fuels this team. They aren't 6-0 by happenstance in home Game 7s. So with that, the Thunder, they have some historical data on their side, but especially in the league with so much parity, so much talent all around, you never truly know. Because also for the Oklahoma City Thunder, while they may have history on their side, there's also extra ammunition for the Denver Nuggets to try to take the Thunder out. Because Denver, they are 1 win away from making Oklahoma City the first 68 plus win team ever in the history of the NBA to lose before the conference finals. To this point in NBA history, if a team has won 68 plus games in the regular season, they have at least made the conference finals. But Denver, they've made this series very, very competitive, and they can make the Thunder the first team to fall short of that mark. Now, for this game in particular, let's talk about some key contributors for the Denver Nuggets first up. Of course, you have Nikola Jokic. 29 points, 14 boards, 8 assists. This is something we've kind of become accustomed to seeing from Jokic, and this has not been his best series in terms of efficiency, whether that is at scoring the ball or whether it is kind of with his assist to turnover ratio. Jokic has struggled at times, but he was dialed in for this past game and it really showed. You, of course, have his co star in the backcourt as well in Jamal Murray. And earlier on in this season, it looked like there were some worrying signs from Jamal Murray. Of course, in the offseason internationally, he had not looked good for Canada whatsoever. And there were questions of if that was going to bleed into the NBA season. And to start off this year, it looked like it was. But he turned things around and had yet another 21 point per game, 6 assists per game season, which was right on par with last year. And so we kind of found that stability once again. And the thing with Jamal Murray is, even if those regular season contributions are solid, but not yet stellar, not yet maybe an All NBA level, right? He's kind of known for showing up in the playoffs. And in this past game, he absolutely did that. 25 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. And I'm someone who has been critical of Jamal Murray in the past. And earlier on this year, I didn't necessarily vocalize it, but I absolutely recognized that he was having a slow start. However, when the lights shine at their brightest, Jamal Murray is very, very impressive, and it's really undeniable his skill level and his talent. These last couple games has been on full display, and this is a tough series. But in Game 6, win or go home, Jamal Murray more than got the job done, and looked like the playoff performer that we have become accustomed to. Another guy, though, Christian Braun. Shout out to him, 23 points, 5 assists, and 11 rebounds. This is someone who has been trusted with a lot more responsibility this year. Even in the regular season, he averaged almost 34 minutes a game, which was a major, major leap from his prior 20. And Braun has absolutely lived up to that. The production has been pretty good, but his impact on the game has also been incredible. The way that a guy with his size is able to run the court as well as make off ball cuts at about 6'6, 220, that's really, really impressive. And especially playing alongside Nikola Jokic, someone who can absolutely find the open man as well as create opportunities for the open man because of the attention that he creates. Christian Braun is a perfect complementary piece. You think of the likes of Aaron Gordon, who has been, in my opinion, a very exciting, fun player to watch for the way that he plays alongside Jokic. I think Christian Braun can very much be in that same vein. Julian Strawther as well, 15 points. But what was really notable about him was his efficiency. Because it's one thing to get 15 points as a more rotational piece if you're taking a lot of shots, and maybe that can kind of inhibit your team because you're limiting shots from other guys. But when you're able to get 15 points on 4 for 8 shooting, that's very, very impressive because now you're getting your points up, but you're also allowing other guys to have their opportunities to score. You're not taking shots away from other guys and you're hitting yours, which only really boosts your team's efficiency. And speaking of efficiency, he was lights out from 3. An absolute flamethrower, made 3 out of 4 from beyond the arc. A very good showing from Julian Strawther. And for the Oklahoma City Thunder, someone that I've already seen getting harped on a little bit is J-Dub. And for Jalen Williams, he has not had a pretty series. In Game 3, he was 11 for 21, which would be by far his most efficient game. Because let's rattle off the rest of these stat lines. My bad, Game 2 was his most efficient at 6 for 11. But Game 1, 5 for 20. Game 4, 2 for 13. Game 5, 5 for 14. In this most recent game, in a chance where they had the opportunity to close this series out, J-Dub had 6 points on 3 for 16 from the field. And I've already seen Jalen Williams catching a lot of flack for this, and perhaps rightfully so. This is not a very good performance to say the very least. And especially when you are such a scoring threat for this team, and someone that the Oklahoma City Thunder are really relying on to hit their shots, you do have to be better than this. I think long term he will be fine. He's still a very, very young player, and as a result, he's still kind of ironing out his game. But this has not been a good series for Jalen Williams. And if they do lose, there's probably going to be a wave of criticism coming his way. But to just defend him for 1 second here, it has been a very tough series for a lot of players. Pretty much everyone has had, some stretch of bad games. And that even includes the likes of Nikola Jokic, who has struggled with efficiency at times. Game 1, 6 for 16. Game 2, 8 for 25. My bad. I meant that started in Game 2. He was 6 for 16. Then Game 3, 8 for 25. In Game 4, 7 for 22. So Jokic has had his stretches of not being very efficient from the field, as well as moments where his playmaking has not been where you would think it would be. Whether it's in pure assist numbers or in regards to his assist to turnover ratio, Jokic has had times where he's been off. SGA had a game where he was 7 for 22. Michael Porter Jr., of course, he's been playing on one arm basically. He hasn't had a pretty series. It's been a tough one for a lot of guys. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to just point a magnifying glass at Jalen Williams. However, it does deserve note that he has had a little bit of a rough series. And in a way, I think it's kind of interesting that this series has not been very pretty for both teams because, of course, with the modern NBA, there's been this talk of the offensive explosion that we are seeing, whether it is the revolution and increasingly prevalent volume of the three-pointer, or just overall very fast, high-paced offenses like the Pacers, or even the Thunder. And with that, so many people say the game is not the same when, games are going 140 to 130, 130 to 120. Teams just trading threes left and right. There is kind of that perception of the modern NBA. However, when you have two teams that stack up like this and have so much talent on both sides, you can still have a very, very competitive and interesting series that is not only trading blows, but also teams battling it out and not having the prettiest games, but still coming out on the other side the victor. And you talk about what ifs for the Thunder. What if J-Dub was playing better? Could they have won this series already? But there's what ifs for Denver as well. They very easily could have won one of the games that they lost. In Game 5, they had a 10-minute stretch where they did not have a single field goal. 10 minutes without a single field goal. And in Game 4, they had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. So there have been moments where Denver could have executed better as well. So it's on both sides. It's made for a very competitive series. And one that, if you truly love basketball, this should be one that is very, very interesting and very, very notable. And now, as we go into Game 7 in a couple days, we are on two sides of history. Of course, we have two of the primary MVP candidates. It's going to be Jokic or it's going to be SGA. There is no in between. Both of them have had all-time great seasons up to this point. And in any other year, either Shai or Jokic would have been the runaway MVP because of the season that they are having. But because they're going up against each other, it's not so easy to pick the most valuable player in the league. And now they're up against each other in a playoff series. And for Denver, they won a championship a couple years ago, but they want to do it again. And for the Thunder, this was an incredible regular season for them, and they have plenty of years with this youth that they have to continue on with this success. But if they somehow lose, they would be the first team in the history of the league to have won 68 plus games and not even make the conference finals. So they don't want to be the first team to do that. That would be a rough reputation, especially for the likes of J-Dub. And for the Nuggets, if they win, this is going to be a very rough path to the finals because they faced the Clippers in round one, and that was a series in which Kawhi Leonard was largely healthy, and we really saw a glimpse of what he used to be very, very capable of and is capable of when he's on the court. Then, of course, they've got this series with Thunder, which has not been pretty at times. And both sides are very, very capable of not just winning the series, but going on to win the NBA title. But even if Denver wins here, they'll have to face the Timberwolves, and that's been a rough matchup for them, as we've seen in years past. So even if Denver wins here, they've got a rocky road ahead of them. I think OKC they match up a little bit better against Minnesota, but even still, man, this has been an incredible series. And when you have a series like this, especially one that goes all the way to the two best words in sports of Game 7, then it's really, really special for both the casual and the hardcore fan. And maybe even people on the outside looking in who don't really care too much about the NBA, but they see the way the series has gone and how much fire that there is on both sides, how much desire to win. And that can really, make someone kind of come to love the NBA. It's been a really incredible postseason, which I think deserves to be talked about so much more than it has been. And that has really been exemplified by this series. Not only has it been incredible with some offensive superstars on both sides, but a lot of guys that haven't had very pretty series. But it's all leading to a game 7. This postseason has been incredible, and what we've really seen for playoffs this year, it has been a great time to be an NBA fan. So much talent in the league, so many series that could go either way, so many what ifs to think about that make each individual game so much more interesting. And we're seeing some relatively new teams too. Of course, we had that stretch of greatness between Cleveland and the Warriors for years on end, where every year they would face each other in the finals. And this league was led by a long time by the likes of LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. But now all those guys are gone, and we've got more of a youthful movement in OKC, Minnesota, the Denver Nuggets. Then the East, the Juggernauts have been pretty much taken down. The Cavs are gone, and the Celtics. It looks like they're going to be done too. And we're going to get a series between Indiana and New York, most likely. And that's a fresh series that also reinvigorates an old rivalry. No matter what series you're looking at, no matter what part of the postseason you're looking at, it has been incredible so far. And we are so lucky and blessed to be NBA fans. And that has really been exemplified in this series between Denver and the Oklahoma City Thunder.